everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Life Interrupted. I'm Patricia Muller, and I am here with Roxanne Miller, and we are going to talk about death and grief. This podcast does deal with these subjects, and it may be sensitive for you, may have some triggers. So please be advised, be very cautious when listening or watching this podcast. We are also not medical professionals, so if you need medical help, please seek out those grief support groups, psychologists, psychiatrists, grief therapists, anyone that you need help from. Well, thank you, Roxanne, for being with us today. I really appreciate this is take 2. We did one earlier and the video didn't work out right, so we're trying it again. And I really appreciate you
No
doing this
problem.
all
Thank you for
over
having me.
again. All right. Do you want to give us just a little bit of information about yourself?
We have 4 children, 3 boys, 1 girl. And we do have a pet dog, but she's not with us right now. We recently moved from Alabama and we were unable to bring her. So we're trying every time we make plans to go get her, something doesn't go as planned. But soon, hopefully, we'll be getting her back. She's a terrier pet. Her name is Gypsy.
Terrier and pit bull?
I guess
Like
we
Jack Russell
adopted her.
Terrier?
She was about the description just said terrier pet.
So, what is your first experience with death?
We had a big family. My paternal grandmother had 19 children. Not all of them survived through their childhood or, to adulthood. But needless to say, a lot of aunts and uncles. So growing up, we did have a lot of our aunts and uncles that passed away before I was born and when I was young. Um, so when I was in high school. So I do remember like the death being there, and we weren't I wasn't really too close to them because I'm the last of 4. So I really didn't interact much with them. But my first real experience with a really hard death was my father. He passed away when I was 21 and I had just had Malachi. Malachi was 3 days old. But I remember my due date was November 26th and Malachi was 3 days early. And it just so happened that the irony, I had to circle on my calendar November 26th, oh happy day. Because that's when my due date was, and that's the day my father passed away.
So, is there someone you've lost whose story you would like to
Yeah.
share?
So my nephew Wes, he passed away 2 years ago in May, and he was just such a sweet kid. He was 26 when he passed, and he had that larger than life personality, a gift for bringing people together that wouldn't normally consider themselves to be friends if it wasn't for him. He was a man of God. He's one of the reasons why I repaired my relationship with God. He had that big hearty laugh. He was always joking, always just full of life. He was always so full of life, and I think he was a big inspiration. He made a lot of impact in a lot of people's lives.
So, how did he help prepare your
So
relationship with
when
God?
so after Malachi, you could imagine how hard it was for me, um, just having lost my father. And Malachi was in ICU for 14 days because he was born with CMV. So I had Malachi in ICU, and I had to go bury my father 3 days after that. And it's been a long road, Malachi, health wise and with school, and it's just everything that comes with being a special needs mom because he's autistic as well as profoundly deaf. Then Wyatt came, and I had a really bad experience with Wyatt during my C-section. He ended up swallowing some fluid, and he ended up in observation for 7 days. Gabriella was the only um, kid that I was able to have with me in my room. She had no complications. Then Micah came along, and there was a big age gap. There's a big age gap between Gabby and Charles. And We knew he was going to have issues from the bully. He was already displaying like a weakness on one side. That was one side of his body that would just kind of float. So you would just see his arm kind of just do this. And, we did all kinds of tests, and I had to have an MRI for him in utero. I had an appointment for him at Scottish Rites in utero. I was pregnant going to Scottish Rites for him. And then he was born. He was born with club foot, a dislocated hip, the weakness on one side, and a brachial plexus injury. Because when he was born, I had a C-section and his legs were crisscross applesauce and he was really high up. So they had a hard time getting him out. And that's where the brachial plexus injury came in. And then started, of course, the long journey of what is Micah Charles. This is what they call a medical marvel. And at 9 months, we found an adrenal tumor, which started oncology. We did oncology for 5 years, but thank God that he didn't need any treatment. This tumor kind of just shrank on its own. Even though that happened later, after years, I went through a really dark period where I was very angry with God because I was always a why my kids? Haven't my kids suffered enough kind of thing. So it was a long time where I was back and forth. I would repair my relationship with God, and then something would happen with Charles. It was the adrenal tumor, and then he started with seizures the year that Wes passed away. Actually, after he passed away, he started with seizures, and then he has sleep apnea, and now we're looking at a possible diagnosis of Cushing's disease. It's been one thing after another with him. It was a lot of anger and my rejection of God because I would always say, well, I'm a good person. I try to do the right thing. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my kids? And Wes was always been a man of God. He grew up in the church with my sister, and of course, his dad was a pastor. He knew God his whole life. Even when he turned into adult, he always was steadfast. He always knew that God was there and that God had his back, no matter with whatever he was struggling with. So when he passed away, in honor of him, I decided to repair my relationship with God.
I remember where I was when I was given the news that he had passed away. I was at my mother's house living with her and sitting in the office, and I got the text from Ramona. And I was just in shock.
It was sudden. It was a car accident. It wasn't like he was sick or had any health issues or anything like that.
Yeah, and those kinds of deaths, we always think that their lives are cut too short. And I know it is very painful. We lose them. We just assume that they're going to grow up to be adults. They're going to have kids. We're going to have grandkids. And then they're taken. But God knew when they were going to go. It's just we didn't know. And so it seems like their lives are cut short, but they lived as long as they were supposed to.
I was living in Alabama at the time. My whole family, we had to get on the bus to come back to Texas. I think it was a 13-hour bus ride. I think maybe longer. But there was a gentleman that sat next to us on one of the pickups. He got on. He sat next to me and Gabby, and we got to talking, right? And started telling me about his life and how when he was 26 years old, he was in a really bad car accident, but he survived. And he was telling me about his kids and that how his relationship with his children is estranged, and he's trying to get his life back on track and get a good relationship back with his children. And that's when it dawned on me because I could have been like, why did he get a second chance and not Wes? It dawned on me that it wasn't his time. God was giving him that extra time to repair whatever relationships he needed to repair and turn his life around. And I needed to be at peace with the fact that it was time. no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much I believe it was unfair, no matter how much of a good person he was and the light that he brought into the world, it was just his time.
It doesn't make it hurt any less, but I remember when my husband died, and I don't know if it was survivor's guilt, but I always ask, why didn't you take me? Why did he just said, because his work was done. It was right at the height of COVID, and our church had been praying for this like 70, 80-year-old woman who had COVID to be healed, and she was healed. And my husband was 70 years old, and I was like, why her and not him? And he said, because his work was done.
We all have our parts to play in his plan, and we just need to kind of go with the flow.
Well, and he not only knows who's going to be taken, who he's going to call home, but he also knows what our reaction is going to be. He is omniscient. He knows what's going to happen, what ripple effects that person's death is going to have on the people around them, their loved ones. And so he is prepared to take care of us. He is prepared to accept whatever anger and tongue lashing we want to give him. He's prepared. He's big enough to listen to the questions, to field the questions, to help try to answer questions. He isn't just some giant ogre sitting up there trying to hurt us and take people away and laugh at us. He knows what's going to happen, and he's prepared for it. He's ready for it if we are willing to seek that wisdom from him and go to him. So what do you think happens after we die?
I believe that we go into the promised land. We go and we're with our Lord, and we get to experience all the love and joy and peace that we didn't get here on earth.
So do you think we go directly to heaven?
I go back and forth with that one. Sometimes I feel like, yes, we do. We go straight to where we are meant to be, and we get to have our reunion with our lost loved ones, and be in his presence, and like I said, that joy and love and peace that we didn't get here on earth. But then there's sometimes that I believe that there might be a transition period where we go somewhere, kind of process what our next step. It takes us time to process things.
So was there ever a time in your life when your own death felt closer imminent?
Yes, actually, twice in my life. The first one was after I had my hysterectomy. Everything went well except for maybe, I want to say, a month or two later, I got really sick. One day I had these shakes. I was shaking like I was freezing. And that my husband was putting cover after cover after cover over me. And I had on hoodies and jackets, and I was still just shaking. I mean, teeth clattering, the whole 9 yards. I finally just broke down because I couldn't take it anymore. I said, just, can you please just take me to the ER? Because I can't do this anymore. He took me to the ER, and they found a baseball abscess in my pelvic area. And I ended up in the ICU for 5 days.
Do you ever think about your own past?
I do more think about my kids, especially Malachi, since he's my special needs kid. He's autistic. He's high functioning, but he has no concept of time. He can't drive. So he wouldn't be able to take care of himself. He can go and make himself a sandwich if he's hungry. He bathes himself. He feeds himself. Uh, but as far as like being able to live an independent life, that wouldn't doesn't something that would be feasible for him. So when I think on death, I worry more about what he's gonna have to go through. If I go first and Will is still alive, he going to have to go to court and fight for Malachi since Malachi is not his biological son. will his biological father put up a fight for him or not? Or it's stuff like that that I worry more about. And I think about when it comes to my own deaths.
Yes, I remember not even thinking about that until one of our other friends that we have has a nonverbal autistic child. And she mentioned that that's one of the special needs parents' concern is who's going to take care of my
Yep.
kids when I go, if I go before them. So, how would you like people to remember you?
I would like to be that person that somebody can look back and say, she made me feel seen. She really helped me feel like I mattered or that I wasn't alone. Because, as you know, as a special needs mom and as a caregiver to my oldest sister, it gets overwhelming and it gets lonely. And just the small kindness could do for somebody. It could, change their whole day and it can even save a life. And I would like to be that person that says, you know what, she really made me feel like I mattered.
Yes. And you have 4 children, and 3 of them are special needs. And then you care for your older sister.
So I have 4 children, 2 special needs, one of which is cognitive, which is Malika. He is autistic, and one of which is physical. That's Micah Charles. He has a lot of musculoskeletal issues, so he needs help with daily living. He has a hard time feeding himself, so I'm going to buy him some adaptive utensils to help him feed himself. He needs help bathing in the bathroom, um, getting in and out of the car. So just physical. So my sister, she is both physical and cognitively disabled.
So, what do you wish more people understood about death, grief, or the healing journey?
I've experienced this with myself. I've experienced it watching my sister grieve her son. It's that no two grief processes look alike and that there is no time frame. There is so many people out there that will be like, "Oh, well, it's been 2 years since he's gone." But how do you get over, quote unquote, get over a loss of a child? Any loss is hard, but I believe a loss of a child is just unimaginable. Even me being his aunt, he was my baby before I had babies. Like him and Carlo were here before I had kids, had Malachi, and I used to spoil them like crazy. I love my nephews. I love my niece like they're my own. But the fact of the matter is that they're not my own. And as much as the pain is for me, having lost Wes, it's a million times more for my sister. And there should be no time limit for grief.
And I can tell you that losing a child and losing my spouse were 2 totally different things because I lost a child and she was born, but she came early. So there was nothing wrong with her, but she died from the trauma of being born because that's a stressful thing on the body, the woman's body and the baby. And she died during birth. And ever since then, that happened when I was 18 years old. That was 40 years ago. And to this day, I still will go when all my kids are together. It doesn't happen when the kids are apart, but when all the kids are together, I have to count them to make sure they're all here because I feel like one of them's missing. It's like a phantom limb. I mentioned that to one of the ladies. She was pregnant with twins, and one of them passed away. So she gave birth to the other one, of course. And she said that she feels that too. She always feels like she's missing something.
Yes, it's so funny that you say that because that's another thing that really gets me frustrated with some people because I've had two miscarriages. One when I was 4 months pregnant, and the other one, I believe I was like 2.5 months pregnant. And just because those children weren't brought into this world didn't make their loss any less to me than it would have been for you or my sister. There's always arguments on both sides. There's people who have had miscarriages that say, well, at least you got to have your child or hold your child. There's arguments on the other side, well, at least you didn't have the pain of having them and then for so long and then losing them. The loss of a child, whether in the womb or out of, is a loss.
So if today were your last day, what would you do with it?
I would spend it with my kids. I would just make it a day where we eat all of the things, all of our favorite foods, until we almost gonna burst and watch movies, play games, and just enjoy each other's company.
So would you want them to know that was your last
No,
day?
I wouldn't, only because I wouldn't want that sadness, that realization that to overshadow the time that we have left. Even though, they might in hindsight want to have known, I feel like they would concentrate on, oh, this is mommy's last day and we're not going to be able to see her, or this is my wife's last day and I'm going without somebody I've been with for so many years. I just want it to be the perfect day where no worries, no fighting, just us.
Yes, I've had some people say, yes, they would want people to know it's their last day so that they could come out. So it would give them an opportunity to come out and knowing it's your last, say your last words, say your final words, but they would still want it to be a celebration, be like a party. And I've had, like you, some people say, nope, I don't want anybody. I wouldn't want people to know it was my last day. Now, there are certain people I would tell them it is my last day because I know that if they knew by past and they didn't know, then they would regret not coming out. So those few people, I would tell them yes. But otherwise, nope, I wouldn't want anybody to know either. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else that you would like to say or express or talk about in your own grieving process? Anything you learned or anything like that?
I I just want to recommend the book Love Never Dies. I can't remember the authors, but it's a really good book about loss and grieving, and it explains that there's different types of grievers. So there's the griever who has to keep their loved one's memory alive, so they're always talking about that person. They're always talking about their son, wife, whoever that person that they lost. They're always bringing them up conversations because they want to keep that memory alive, and it's what helps them grieve. And there's a stoic griever, and the stoic griever is someone who, in private, on the outside, it looks like they're quote unquote handling it so well. You never know what people do behind closed doors when nobody's watching. And I'm guilty of looking outside in and saying, "Oh, that's weird. I wouldn't be able to do that." There's this one lady who lost her husband and almost immediately started to remove his things from the house and give away his clothes, things like that. We're so quick as human beings to other people, and I was like, "Oh wow, I wouldn't be able to give away my husband's things." But then it dawned on me, and I was like, "What if she can't handle his stuff? What if it's just too much for her to be looking around every corner and see a part of him and just not be able to move past and continue the next step in her grieving process. So who am I to judge somebody else for the things that they do or do not do after the loved ones pass away?
Yes, I was just talking to Ron about this earlier today, that when we see people, we get this one picture of them in this one moment for 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, however long we see that. Out of all their many hours on earth, that's all that we see. And we're judging people by those few minutes that we don't know anything about these people. We don't know. Even those people that we think we know, we don't know. I have talked to more than one wife that after their husband died, they were like going through his stuff and didn't know stuff about him that he had buried, he had hidden, that he was. The customer tell me that she found out her husband had a whole nother life, another woman, another family. I mean, that whole crazy movie type thing that you hear about. So we can't judge people. I mean, we can, but we shouldn't judge people on those just few minutes that we see them in whatever is going on in their life. I'll put a picture of it on there. This Love Never Dies, Embracing Grief with Hope and Promise. Larry
Yes.
Barber. Is that the right cover? Okay. I'll put it up there, and I'll put a link in the comments where to get that book.
No problem.
Thank you for that. Okay. Well, thank you so very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. You are such an amazing person. I'm very thankful, so thankful to know you and be part of your
Thank you. I
tribe.
appreciate that. And I feel the same.
Thank you. And tell your family, thank you for doing without you for this little
You
bit of
and
time
Micah
so that we
Charles.
could do this.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.